Hey, Cody.
Hello. What you just watched was body cam footage warned by Jimmy in as he approached a house on what appeared to be a routine domestic violence call. Now you'll notice that I did cut the footage once it started to get really sketchy, but I left the sound. The reason for this was to be compliant with YouTube terms of service. Also, before I even get into the story, I want to give credit to Devin Tracy because he made a video about this. And because, as you guys will notice, all of the coverage of this story is local news coverage, without his video, I would not have known about the existence of this footage or about this instance. So this is the obligatory plug for Censor TV using promo code AIU. And if you're weirded out about subscribing to Censor.tv, I will also link to his Patreon because he's still making videos. They're available in both places. If you want to get censored, use promo code AIU. If you want to just get Devin's videos, go to his Patreon. Also, Devin, I will see you in court. Now that we got all that out of the way, I want to get into the main reason why I'm covering this story on this YouTube channel, because there's a ton of body cam footage out there. You can go to police activity on YouTube and watch more than you'll ever need to in your entire life. But this one really stuck out to me, and it stuck out to me for a number of reasons. First and foremost, this is a routine domestic violence call, or it appeared to be on the surface. How many times have you seen abolish the police or defund the police activists talk about how police officers don't need firearms when going on routine domestic violence situations? How officers honestly shouldn't even be deployed in this situation. Just imagine, while watching the video that I put out, by the way, the full video is linked in the description if you guys want to watch more of it. It's really bad. How a social worker would have dealt with this situation any better, where the guy pops out of the door and he immediately fires upon the person who showed up to deal with this, the person who is tasked with dealing with the most horrific people in our nation on a day-to-day basis. And the other thing that really stuck out to me about this is that it reminded me of a professor that I had while I was studying criminal justice. Now, most of you guys know that's my educational background. I've said it a number of times on this channel. But what fewer of you might know is that while studying this subject, I would actually take classes from time to time with people who were not your standard professor, but they were actually some kind of an official in a police department or agency that was getting their degree and trying to become a professor later in life. And one of the classes that will always stick out to me was the class I took on policing, a higher level policing class that was taught by the DI for discipline for the NYPD, the cop that deals with all the bad cops. And the reason I'm bringing up this class is because there's a couple of things that you should know about this person that I'm referencing. Number one, he was a total dork. Like 100% a nerd, a geek, whatever you want to call him, that was this guy. I have never taken a class in my entire life where somebody has told me maybe over 100 times how they never so much as took a coffee for free while doing their job as a police officer. And by the way, it makes total sense that this guy was a total dork. Cops are mostly dorks. They're mostly Boy Scouts. And this guy is now in the position where he is the cop for all the cops. You don't get there unless you have maximum dork energy. Number two, if I showed you a picture of this guy, you would think that I pulled up a stock photo of a generic person in his position. He looks so much like your stereotypical short New York cop. He talked like that. He's basically, if you saw him in a movie, you would think that that's a caricature of a person. Everything about him screamed cop from the jump. And number three, he told me what happens in a police department after an officer is killed in the line of duty. So what you guys might not know is that police officers have lockers. They're essentially like high school kids. And just like high school kids, at any given point in time, you can go into a police officer's locker and get an assessment, basically a time capsule version of who that person was. Now, when an officer dies in the line of duty, you see the procession, you see all the glory and all the officers paying their respects. But what you don't see is that at the precinct, the officers that worked with their fallen officer have to clean out the locker of that fallen officer. And when they do that, things stick out to them. And one of the things that stuck out to my professor when he was in this situation is when he cleaned out a locker and he found a baseball glove. Now, the reason this stuck out to him, and the reason why I can remember this story so vividly, is because the officer who ended up dying was a divorced dad. He was working the Friday night shift, and it was his weekend with his kid. So his plan was, and this is why he brought the baseball glove, was to go straight from work after working the overnight shift, pick up his kid, and play catch with him at the park. Hence the baseball glove. And his officers in his department knew his situation. They knew how much he cared about his kid. So when they found the baseball glove, all of these officers that worked with their fallen brethren for years, they broke down crying. And this professor, who was there in that moment, was getting choked up as he was telling us this story. And it must have been like 10, 15 years later. This guy had been on the force forever. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because Jimmy In, the fallen officer in this story, was a father of 3. 14-year-old stepson, 12-year-old stepdaughter, and 7-month-old newborn. And when I heard about this story, I thought about what might be in Jimmy In's locker. But that's not what we're here to get into. That's something that you should take with you and keep in the back of your mind as we go through this. Because while Jimmy In was a father, Lance Lowe, the shooter in this situation, was also a father. And while they're both technically fathers, I don't want you to misconstrue me talking about Lance Lowe being a parent for somebody you should have sympathy for. Because while they are technically both fathers, I have a feeling that Jimmy In treated his kids, 2 of them are children of choice, quite differently than Lance Lowe's parenting technique. Because remember, the police were called for a domestic violence situation. Lance Lowe, the lowlife that he is, ambushed and killed an officer, shooting him instantly after he opened the door. But after that, Lowe engaged in a shootout with the officer's partner.
58 shots fired. Partner's down.
But running out of bullets or maybe going inside to reload, Lance Lowe had a bit of an idea. You see, he was already beating on his woman, but he also had his 8-year-old son there. So Lowe thought it would be a great idea to take his son outside to where the officer was shooting at him and use his son as a human shield. On top of that, Lowe decided to put his son in a chokehold. Now, I'm not going to show you this video because of YouTube's terms of service. It is horrifying. It's disgusting. You're seeing a grown man choke the life out of his 8-year-old kid because he thought that was a reasonable response post shooting an officer because he didn't want to have his parole violated and go back to prison. But I will play you some of the audio.
Jimmy, you all right? 58 shots fired. My partner is down. Code 3 now.
2 Baker 58.
Shots fired. My partner is down. Jimmy! Jimmy, stay with me! Jimmy! Don't do it! Let the kid go! Don't do it! I want you... Let the kid go, man.
2 Baker 58.
I don't want to kill you. I don't want to kill you.
2 Baker 58.
Don't let the kid go, man.
2 Sam 70, no response from 2 Baker 58.
58, I need units code 3. He's strangling the kid and my partner is down. Let the kid go!
Mr. Not code 3.
Let him go!
By the way, these are the situations that police officers deal with, and these are the situations that they have to deal with in an instant. Imagine your partner is killed instantly on a routine domestic violence check, and now, all of a sudden, you are in a shootout with a guy using his own child as a human shield who is also choking the life out of that child. So essentially, you have minutes to react to this situation. You have to worry about your partner who's on the floor, who may still be alive, who you may be able to save, if you can get to him in time. You have to worry about this kid who in a couple of minutes is going to be choked to death by his own father, and you have to deal with the guy who's out on parole way too early, mind you, possibly due to COVID, who's creating this situation. Now already, in watching this video, I've been blown away with the actions of this guy, Lance Lowe, twice. I can't believe it. It's all contained on the body cam footage, but this is a situation that happened a little over a month ago. But it actually gets even crazier, because while all this crazy stuff is happening, a neighbor sees what's going on and decides to act. A neighbor, unarmed, watching a kid potentially die, watching an officer in a situation where he can't do anything, notices that Lance Lowe's attention is 100% directed at the officer and at killing his own kid. Because again, this is the caliber of human being that we're dealing with. So this neighbor decides that he's going to intervene, and he tackles Lowe, saving the kid and clearing the area for the officer to come up and do his job. This story is unbelievable. Literally, if it weren't for the video and I just read this in a police report, I would not believe it, which it's a really good thing that there is video of this situation, because the officer involved ended up killing Lance Lowe, and that is the fourth also shocking portion of this video. Because after the kid is cleared, or while the guy's being wrestled on the ground, the officer springs into action, goes up, and empties his entire magazine into this criminal that murdered his partner. Now, there was an investigation, it lasted a little while, and they've cleared the officer. And I'm 100% in agreement with the clearing of the officer. This guy presented a gun. He shot somebody. He was trying to kill a kid. A good Samaritan had to be involved. You don't know if he has the gun on him, so I'm 100% on board with the police officer neutralizing the threat, who has proven himself, no matter the situation, no matter how docile in appearance, to be a murderous maniac. But again, the entirety of the video is in the description box of this video if you want to check it out for yourself and make your own judgment call. And if you disagree with my assessment of the situation, I don't want to hear it. Don't leave a comment. I'm not interested. Because if you look at that situation and you think that Lowe is in any way, shape, or form the victim in this scenario at any point, you're crazy. You need to unsubscribe, get off YouTube, and go seek medical help. If you think that this situation should have been resolved or would have been resolved better had there been a social worker present, then unsubscribe, get off YouTube, check into an institution because you need help. Lance Lowe is the exact person that you should not release early after he committed a Grand Theft Auto with a firearm. He's the kind of guy that you should have locked up and thrown away the key. And had they made Lowe actually serve out his full sentence, or at least 2/3 of his sentence, then Jimmy N would be alive and his kids would still have a father. Now you might be saying to yourself, Sean, if we didn't let Lowe out of prison, if we didn't parole him early, if we didn't make him serve out at least 2/3 of his sentence, then this domestic abuser, this attempted child murderer, this murderer of a police officer might have gotten sick while he was in prison, and he might have not recovered. I mean, chances are he would have recovered. He's within the age range that is likely to recover from the virus, but he could have got sick from the virus and then, been in the prison ICU for a couple weeks. Yeah, I'm fine with that. That's definitely preferable to what the state of California did in this scenario. And the fact that this guy could have gotten an early release in April 2020 due to health concerns, when that's supposed to be for people with pre-existing conditions, for non-violent elderly prisoners, is an absolute travesty of justice, and the parole board should be held to some sort of account for the decision that they made here. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Obviously, if you liked the video, you show them by leaving a like. Subscribe for more content. All the links are in the description. You guys know the drill. Don't want to go over it. This has been me talking about a situation in Stockton, California. Till next time.